Coming up on Crimson Tide Kickoff. Alabama is off this week, but we're still getting your day started. How is the Tide using their downtime to their advantage, and why does Nick Saban say this week is not just about practice? 2/3 of the season is over. We'll look back at the first 8 games and look ahead to the last 4. Plus, he could be the quarterback of the future. We'll talk one-on-one with the father of Alabama freshman quarterback, Phillip Sims. It's 60 minutes of nonstop action. We only hope you can handle it.
I always thought I was a tough guy and all that.
Always shaking it up. It's Crimson Tide Kickoff coming at you right now.
Live from the campus of the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Kickoff with Gary Harris and John Huddleston. Brought to you by AT&T and by Alpha Insurance.
And Bryant-Denny Stadium sits empty for 2 more weeks. Next week, Alabama continues their bid for an SEC championship when they face LSU in Baton Rouge. But today, the Tide enjoys some much-needed R&R. And hello, everyone. Alongside Gary Harris, I'm John Huddleston. This is Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance and AT&T. AT&T, the official wireless communications provider for the University of Alabama Athletics. AT&T, rethink possible. Big show today, Gary.
Yeah, John, you know what? We got glorious football weather finally. And no football game.
Yeah, I know.
But we've still got a lot to talk about today on the program. Great guest lineup for you coming on Crimson Tide Kickoff. Chris Walsh of Bama Online will join us to look at the Tide's first 8 games and project what might happen in the final 4 games. Plus, we'll talk with the author of When Winning Was Everything. It's a fascinating book that profiles Alabama football players who also served their country during World War II. I mean, it is a great, great read. We'll talk about it. And a special treat for you today as well. You might have seen him live in person at the game or maybe even on TV. Shaker Guy stops by our set, and he'll tell us how he came up with the whole idea to be the Shaker Guy in the first place. But first, this morning, as we mentioned, it is a bye week for Alabama. The Tide players practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before taking Friday and Saturday off. Bama enters the off date on a high note. Their 41-10 thumping of the Volunteers in Knoxville was Bama's most lopsided victory in the series since 1963 and their largest margin of victory ever at Neyland Stadium. But now the Tide players must put that victory behind them as they prepare for the final 4 games on their schedule. How they play those 4 games, Nick Saban says, is strictly up to them.
Do you want to participate in the rest of the season, or do you want to try to dictate and, become a dominant team? But that's not going to happen just when you go out on the field. You got to do it every day. You got to prepare yourself to do it, and you have to have the right mindset and the passion to do that. And that's something that has to be there for you every day. When the game comes, everybody's going to want to win the game, but not everybody has done all the things they need to do to be able to play effectively enough to play winning football consistently enough to have success.
So it's about continued improvement in practice, but that's not easy this time of the year. Guys are beat up and tired. They're mentally exhausted, and that can be just as important as the physical part of the game. Mentally, you've got to stay strong.
You just got to keep in mind, what you want to accomplish. A quote from Michael Jordan, he talked about, your bodies get fatigued, but, if you really want something bad enough, your heart never gets fatigued. So that's kind of the approach that I think we need to kind of take as far as, keeping in mind what you want to do. And it's going to come down to, how bad do we want to accomplish, what we're going to accomplish, what we need to accomplish, and what we're capable of.
And the Tide is still capable of accomplishing a lot. If they win out, they'll play for an SEC championship and quite possibly a BCS national championship. Take a look at the most recent BCS standings. Auburn moved into number 1 after Oklahoma's loss to Missouri. But, of course, Bama still has to play the Tigers on November 26th, so that discussion will be settled on the field. Behind the Tigers, Oregon, Missouri, and Michigan State all still sit ahead of Alabama. But if any 2 of them lose a game, and if Bama wins the remainder of their games, it's a very real possibility a 1-loss Alabama squad would jump an undefeated Boise State or TCU. Nick Saban, you can probably imagine what he has to say about his team's BCS bubble.
We've got a lot of tough games against a lot of good teams, and all we can do is what we can control, which is try to make our team the best we can make our team, get our team to improve and be as prepared as we can to play those games one game at a time, and focus on being the best that we can be and getting more and more guys to do that.
Now, we talk about Bama winning out. That's not going to be an easy thing by any stretch of the imagination. Alabama goes on the road next week to number 12 LSU, then returns home to host number 23 Mississippi State. After that, it's Georgia State, and then number 3 by the AP poll, number 1 by the BCS standings, the Auburn Tigers come into Bryant-Denny Stadium for what could be a historic Iron Bowl. That's if everybody keeps winning.
Absolutely, and with that in mind, still to come on Crimson Tide Kickoff, as you mentioned, an Iron Bowl that could be one for the ages. We'll look ahead at that monumental game that's just about a month away. Plus, Chris Walsh of Bama Online will join us to discuss the Iron Bowl, as well as his impressions of the first 8 games, Alabama 7-1.
But up next, some people use them to cheer with. He uses them for clothing. Shaker guys here on our set. We can hardly wait. That's next. This is Crimson Tide Kickoff.
Welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by AT&T and Alpha Insurance. Our first guest this morning, well, you probably don't know him personally, but there's a good chance that you're going to recognize him. Shaker Guy, as he's become dubbed, is at Bryant-Denny Stadium every time the Tide plays, decked out in Shakers from top to bottom. You can see him in person at the games, or if you watch the Tide on TV, those cameras from ESPN, CBS, the SEC Network, they seem to find him every single time the Tide plays. Now, his real name is Stephen Crosby, and he's a student at the University of Alabama. This morning, though, he's joining us in full Shaker man gear, full armor, so to speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, good to have you with us.
Yes, sir.
You know, there are a lot of people that dress up for ball games, college and the NFL, come up with unique gimmicks. I got to admit, though, I've never seen Shaker Guy until you. You know, talk about the inspiration for covering yourself in red and white Shakers.
It originally came as kind of a necessity, really. It was really, really cold my freshman year at one of our first football games. And we just got a bunch of Shakers, kind of put them in my jacket that I was wearing. And I looked over to my friend and I said, hey, we should probably make a whole suit of these and it'd be really warm. And I realized the second I said it that I kind of had the responsibility, really, to make it.
So you mean to tell me that this was born out of necessity?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
That's hard to believe, but you caught on pretty quickly to the thought that this was going to make you a fairly popular figure.
Or that it would just be really awesome to do, really.
What's the response to your fellow students and people around campus?
In general, they love me pretty much. Everyone always gives me a roll tide as they walk by, and there's always the oohs and the ahs, and you know, people want to get pictures, so I guess they like me.
Now, I mentioned the fact that the cameras seem to gravitate towards you.
Yes,
do you sit in the same seat every game?
No, sir.
So they have to find you?
Usually, yes, sir. Usually I'm kind of towards the front. Every now and then I'll be in the back. My first game, I was second to last row, and they still found me. So.
Okay. Do they just spontaneously put the camera on you, or do they let you know in advance, hey, we're going to be coming to you? Or?
They never tell me. They never give me an advance. I always have to smile the entire game, and hopefully I'll be on there at the right time.
What about the fans at the game? Do you feel like that they see you as somebody that can get them fired up and get them going? Do they look to you almost like a mascot?
I wouldn't say as a mascot, maybe a cheerleader or something like that. Yes, sir. I do tend to get the crowd riled up whenever I need to.
All right. When you graduate,
yes, sir,
will Shaker Guy come to an end, or will this be something that you continue as a working adult, so to speak?
There were 2 other so-called Alabama super fans, as we've dubbed ourselves, that have taken their costumes that they had and donated them to the Bear Bryant Museum. So I'm hoping Shaker Guy will also go to the Bear Bryant Museum once I graduate.
And real quickly, your girlfriend Summer works with us here at the television station.
Yes, sir.
What does she think about it?
She thinks it's absolutely crazy, and whenever we started dating, she didn't even know who Shaker Guy was.
Well, I tell you this, she's the one that turned us on to you
Yes,
as far
sir.
as getting you on the program, so I think she likes it. Hey, and you're on Facebook too.
Yes, sir.
Just log on and
Log on,
type in Shaker Guy?
Type in Shaker Guy, you'll find me.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, John, let's get the program back on normal ground.
That's going to be a hard thing to do after that. Thanks very much, Gary. Coming up next, Chris Walsh of Bama Online will join us. We'll ask him about Alabama's final 4 games. Does he think the Tide can navigate successfully and win out? You're watching Crimson Tide Kickoff.